One of these again. Doo, doo, doo. Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, we're gonna be going over a modified Chevy Colorado ZR2. But first and foremost, a huge shout out and thank you to the Larry Miller Chevy here in Murray for giving me some time with this ZR2. They actually just took this one in as a trade-in, so if you're interested, definitely hit them up. Link in the description to their website. Let's get into the video. Under the hood, we have a naturally aspirated 3.6 liter V6 that goes through an 8-speed automatic transmission. Now, power outputs are 308 horsepower and then 275 pound-feet of torque. You can also get this with some other engine options. The other engine option that a lot of people will get in the ZR2s happens to be the 2.8 liter diesel. Now let's go to the front end of this particular ZR2. So first off, you guys will notice that you've got the awesome ZR2 hood, which I love how it's raised there in the center. Definitely makes it look cool and aggressive. And then the previous owner put a bug guard here at the top. Definitely gives it a unique appearance. And then coming down below, you've got the full halogen projector bulbs. You got your ZR2 logo with the blacked out Chevy bow tie. And then again, the previous owner added a LED light bar here to the front. Notice you've got the tow hooks that point down, which is pretty cool. And you've got the skid plate underneath. But overall, definitely looks cool from the front end, and don't worry, we'll get into the snorkel. So coming around the side here, you've got two 65mm tires wrapped around 17-inch wheels in the front and over in the rear. And because this is the ZR2, you get the multi-matic shocks, which means, yes, you can jump this truck from the factory. Does really well in the off-road. We got the larger fender flares here on the ZR2, and then this does have an AEV snorkel, which I think with the overall aesthetic of the truck looks pretty neat. Got your blacked out Colorado logo, and then notice you've got some protection here on the underbody. But other than that, here is your full side view on the ZR2, and then let's take a closer look here at the shocks in the rear, so you guys can see that whole setup back here. Again, looks really neat, really capable in the off-road. And then I love the wheel setup here with the beadlock look. Definitely a cool look, and then also the tires super aggressive. Now let's go over the bed of the ZR2. So first off, you've got a full liner here from the factory, and then payload capacity is 1,249 pounds. So that means that we can actually pop up here into the bed, which is super easy. But the reason I want to pop here is this does have a rack here on the roof. I love the antenna there at the top, definitely a cool look. But obviously the rack is going to be practical for overlanding, all that kind of stuff. And I mean, I'm a pretty big person. No, I'm just kidding, I'm not that big. But I mean, the bed holds me fine. And other than that, that's everything for the bed. So we're gonna pop back out. Now let's go to the rest of the rear of the ZR2. So first off, you've got the giant Chevy bow tie, and then you have the larger lights that are kind of like a distinct feature here of the Colorado. And then notice the wider fenders here. You can really see it from the back angle. Definitely a cool look. And then you've got the exhaust tip you guys saw earlier. Towing capacity is about 5,000 pounds with the ZR2. And other than that, that's everything for the rear. Now let's go over the door panel here in the back. So first off, you've got all these soft touch in kind of this area you're going to rest your arm. And then notice with the seats that you've got some storage underneath. A little lever, you do have to pull it to raise the seat and to lower it. You just press that and then the seat will pop back down, and it looks like we've got the Carfax and all that kind of in the way. But let's actually pop in. So stepping in, since it's a mid-sized truck, it's pretty easy to get in. Headroom's good, I'm 5'11". Just like every other mid-size truck, legroom's a little bit more on the cramped side. And then notice that you've got some USBs and a 12-volt. And then you actually get some cup holders back here, which look pretty cool. Definitely hold the cups in place well, and that's all for the rear. Now going over the door panel here in the front, notice that again you've got more soft touch here with all of the window controls, and then you've got the adjustments for the mirror and the door lock and unlock. And then we've got the seats here at the front, which say ZR2 on them. Full leather, you've got the stitching that goes all the way down. They're partially power adjustable, partially manually adjustable. ZR2 logo, and then you've got the pedals there at the bottom. Light control just up above. We've got the drive line select, which we'll go over that in just a moment. You've got your trailer brake controls, and there's one more look before we pop in. Now here's the steering wheel in the ZR2. So you've got leather all around the steering wheel with the stitching there on the center portion. You've got the controls for the center stack, and then your voice command controls. Cruise control on the other side, and it does come with the heated steering wheel. Radio controls are just on the back via rocker panels. Got the stock for the turn signal, and then got the stock for the windshield wipers on the other side, and that's all for the steering wheel. Now here for the center stack, you've got the RPM gauge and then you've got the speed gauge on the other side. And then you do have a couple different menus you can scroll through to give you different bits of information there in the center. If you've been in any modern Chevy, then you guys will be very familiar with that menu setup. Now, aside from that, we actually do get some drive modes that we can go through. Notice that we've got your off-road mode to turn that on or off. And then again, we've got a drive line select, which includes a 2-wheel high, an auto, a 4-wheel high, and then a 4-wheel low. So between all of that, then you can really kind of set this truck to whatever you want. And then it also does come with lockers for the front and the rear, which we'll go over in just a minute. Now let's go over the center infotainment system. First off, we're gonna pop it into reverse. You've got the backup camera with trajectory lines that do turn with the steering wheel, which is definitely pretty neat. And the resolution on the camera is actually really good. Always a huge fan of Chevy's camera systems. They're just solid from the factory. And then as for the infotainment system, you guys can see response time is really good on this infotainment system. It does come with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. I feel like it's nicely integrated into the dash. It works well, it's quick. And then you've got the analog controls for it just down below. Now just down below here, we've got our analog climate controls. It does have just a single zone climate. We've got this for the cargo light. That's your hill descent control. That is your tow mode, your hazard lights, and then the front locker, and then the rear locker, aptly labeled. And then notice you've got your stability control, heated seats, which you can do the full seat or just the back of the seat, whichever you prefer. And that's kind of that whole control area. Notice down below, we've got some USBs and a 12 volts, and then we've got the shifter there for the 8-speed automatic transmission. It does have a manual shift function if you want to shift the gears yourself, and then you do have a low range. Couple cup holders, and then we get a wireless phone charger, and then we have the center console, which you guys can see storage space is really good with the center console. Notice we got more stitching on the top of it, and then popping in here, you guys can see I got a pretty normal glove box, and yeah, that's all for that part. Now up top here, we do have a sunglass holder, and then as for the headliner, it does have a lighter colored headliner. You guys are probably wondering about the rear window. It is manual for the operation, and that's all for the top. Now that we're done going with the interior on the ZR2, let's quickly get into the pricing. So in terms of pricing, the used ZR2 market's been really strong. So really high mileage ones will be into the lower 30s, but it seems like if the truck is clean, if it's relatively low miles, they're in the high 30s, low 40s, and they've just pretty much stuck there for a while, which is annoying for me because I've wanted to buy one of these to jump it, but I'm not gonna do that if it's like 40 grand still. So yeah, but anyways, let's take it out and see how it drives. One of these again. Doo, doo, doo. Well, let's talk about visibility before we set off here on the ZR2. So first off, visibility over the hood is great, just like any other ZR2. The snorkel doesn't get in the way, nothing really gets in the way. There's visibility through both of the mirrors, and then here's throughout the rest of the rear. So in general, visibility is pretty good. The one thing to mention is you do kind of sit lower in this truck. Most trucks, they have the seats up really high. This truck, you just kind of sit lower down, which is interesting. And let's set off. We are setting off here in this modified ZR2, and you guys know that I'm a huge fan of the ZR2 just as a truck platform. I just love the fact that Chevy has made it affordable for someone to get front and rear lockers in a mid-size truck and just get a really capable off-road truck, again, at a more affordable price. That being said, let's talk about the normal daily driver stuff. Like, what's the road noise and ride quality like with the modifications this truck has, right? Is the rack loud? Is the snorkel loud? Any of that kind of stuff? And the answer is no. The truck doesn't make any weird rattling sounds. It feels just like a stock truck, driving it around and all that. And so even though it has the aftermarket wheels and all that, wheels really aren't going to change that much, but more importantly, the rack and then the little snorkel might change stuff a little bit. But it doesn't. I mean, they're very well built, and whatever they did with this particular truck, just, it works. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't make any weird rattles, and it doesn't drive any different from a stock ZR2. It pretty much feels the same, which that's kind of what I'd be looking for if I was going to be doing those types of modifications. Is obviously they have their things with helping out the capability on the truck, but I don't want them to run the driving experience, and they definitely don't. And this is a huge highlight of the Colorado, is it's so small, so the turn-in's really nice. It definitely has like just a small, agile feel for a truck, which on the off-road, that's awesome, so that you can get around terrain, no problem. One thing to mention is the steering wheel is really, really thin. So if you have smaller hands, it's actually gonna be easier for you to kind of grasp around this steering wheel fully. Like I kind of have bigger sized hands. I got monkey hands, I don't know what else to call them. But like I'm kind of like, it's really easy for me to grasp all the way around. Whereas if someone had much smaller hands than me, they'd still be able to grasp around the steering wheel, no problem whatsoever. And getting up to this portion, we'll actually be able to get an acceleration and see how the 3.6 liter V6 performs. And if you guys don't know, I definitely do love that diesel, but there's huge benefits to the V6, and you guys will see that in just a second. We'll see how the Multimatic shocks go over the train tracks. Yeah, it doesn't, like I said, no rattling or anything. Ooh. So you don't get that like burst of torque that you get with the 2.8 liter Duramax. However, this has so much more horsepower, so it just continues to pull. Whereas with the Duramax, it's like a big push off the line and then it just kind of dies and stops. So it kind of depends on what you're looking for from a driving perspective. Here's what I'd have to say. If you're gonna be driving this truck on road 90% of the time, like you're maybe take it off road a time or two, but most of the time it's gonna be on road, I would lean towards the V6. But if you're gonna be taking this truck off road a lot, or if you're getting this truck for off-roading purposes, then I would get the diesel, because that low end torque is gonna be really welcome on the off-road, and that thing's just gonna be a climbing monster, which, I mean, that's what the ZR2 is all about. And the one thing I did notice about the Duramax 2 is it doesn't search for gears as much. This doesn't really search for gears in the sense that some cars will like go back and forth, but it definitely is a little bit more all over the place, whereas that Duramax has so much torque, it just doesn't really have to do that. It can be in the wrong gear and you're still gonna be able to get up and move. But let's get into setting things up with this particular truck. Is this a nice truck? So first off, I mean, it's got 17,000 miles on it, and I mean, the interior looks great. There's like very minimal wear and tear, which, I mean, at 17,000 miles, you're gonna expect to have some wear and tear. And then in terms of the spec that they did in this truck, I love the look of the wheels. I love the fact that they kept the suspension as it is. The Multimatic shocks are more than capable for the off-road. And then I think the snorkel just adds kind of like a cool look to it. This orange color is beautiful. If I were to get a Colorado ZR2, I would get it in this orange color. And so yeah, I think that this is spec'd out perfectly. It's got nice screen, it's got heated seats, and it's, I mean, the engine transmission combo is great for on-road use with if you're going to be doing a little bit of off-roading. And so as for this particular one, I think that whoever owned this previously did a good job with the build that they did. The build quality is really good on the truck. Nothing rattles or creaks or anything like that. So everything just feels very well put together on this particular truck. So if you're looking for a modified ZR2, then Chevy and Murray has one, and this one's definitely pretty neat. Let's get some things up for our video on this modified Chevy Colorado ZR2. And again, a huge shout out and thank you to the Larich Miller Chevy here in Murray for giving me some time with the Colorado. Check out their inventory link below. I'll see all of you in the next video.